Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, so we're going to move forward. I'm going to pass the mic over to my colleagues, Abby and Victoria, just to introduce themselves, and then we'll start our webinar.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abby. I'm a coordinator for quality assurance and assessments. So as a coordinator for the two programs under the quality assurance program, I'm your go-to person for any inquiries related to the professional development portfolio. So whether you have any questions, concerns, or need assistance, Megan and I are always here to support you through it. So feel free to bring in those questions and concerns to the QAP inbox, or we're also available via phone.
And I'll just introduce myself. I'm Victoria Marshall. I'm the Communications and Stakeholder Relations Officer here at the college. And today I'll be providing support mostly with the Q&A function here on the webinar. So if you have any questions or comments or thoughts or even housekeeping questions, please put those in the Q&A as they come up. And if I can answer them, I will. And if they're better for us to get to at the end of the webinar, I'll hold them until then. So thank you.
And I'm Megan McCarroll. I'm the Director of Professional Practice and Policy here at the college. I am really excited to be giving this webinar. A lot of thought has gone into it, and a lot of time and energy has been spent kind of preparing something that's going to be useful. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Abby to start us off with our land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Megan. So the Office of the College of Midwives of Ontario is currently situated on traditional lands belonging to the Anishinaabe, the Wendake, the Haudenosaunee, the Mississauga, and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. I'll also like to add that the land I'm currently on today is a traditional territory of the Attawandaronk, Petun, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Wendake, Mississauga, and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and it is covered by Treaty 19 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. The college recognizes and respectfully acknowledges the past and present traditional owners of this territory and their role in the life of the region. We will continue to commit to honoring the unique cultural and spiritual relationships and practices of Indigenous people to the land, waters, and their rich contributions to society. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. So to get us rolling, I'm going to go over the regulation that the Quality Assurance Program and Professional Development Portfolio are intended to follow. The Quality Assurance is a regulation under the Midwifery Act, and the regulation provides the parameters for participation in and record keeping of registrants engaged in quality assurance. So the quality assurance regulation clearly states two things. One is that all members must participate in self-assessment, continuing education, and professional development activities, which is why inactive members are required to participate, unless, of course, there's a reason for exemption. Inactive members are part of the whole registrant group, so that's why that's captured under the Midwifery Act. The second piece is that members must provide documentation of their self-reflection and learning activities in order to meet the expectations of the quality assurance regulation. But the question a lot of people are asking is, how did we get here? Why did we change? What is this looking like now? As you know, the format of the quality assurance program has changed, most significantly with the implementation of the professional development portfolio. For some context, as part of the 2017 to 2020 strategic plan at the College of Midwives of Ontario, the college led the changes to the quality assurance regulation in order to modernize and respond to regulation best practice. This meant making changes to put greater emphasis on policy and less on regulation. These changes were also made in an effort to remove barriers to the delivery of safe, timely, and quality midwifery care, and to improve client experiences. Following public consultation for 10 weeks from December of 2016 to February of 2017, submissions were made to the ministry in 2017. The quality assurance regulation was moved from the general regulation to a standalone regulation under the Midwifery Act and was enacted on November 27th, 2020. Council officially approved the updated Quality Assurance and Professional Development Portfolio Program in June of 2021 after work where the main goal was to update and improve the previous QA program was completed by the Quality Assurance Committee and the college. The intent of the update was to create a more agile, more proportionate, and more meaningful program that would continue to meet the requirements of the quality assurance regulation. The college has administered the professional development portfolio as part of the revamped quality assurance program since council approved its implementation in 2021. So let's broaden our lens for a second and talk a bit about the philosophy and structure of quality assurance in midwifery. We all know that the college is mandated by laws and regulations which are stated in the Regulated Health Professions Act, the Midwifery Act, and other legislated acts to implement standards, programs, and oversight to meet our regulatory responsibilities. As a self-regulating profession, we have a council that's made up of midwives and members of the public, and this new format of quality assurance was developed by midwives for midwives through the Quality Assurance Committee and then approved by our council. Additionally, the college completed extensive research and held focus groups in the development of what is now called the Professional Development Portfolio. Our message is really clear. Midwifery is a highly respected skill. We recognize that midwifery clients choose midwives as their primary care providers for a reason. They value midwifery care, and we value it too. So we all have the same goals. We just have different roles to play in achieving those goals. The college exists to regulate midwifery in the public interest. Midwives work to provide high quality and ethical care. One of the ways the college regulates midwifery in the public interest is by implementing the programs which allow midwives to engage in quality assurance. And we aren't alone. One aspect of regulation, which applies to all regulated healthcare professionals, is quality assurance. So we're in really good company. As you can see here, these are a couple of screenshots of various regulated health professions and their quality assurance programs. And you can see a lot of overlap with our quality assurance program. You can see practice reflection, you can see learning activities, you can see the requirement to document and engage in case reviews. It's all very similar iterations of what is essentially a much more structured set of obligations and expectations. We get to determine how we meet those responsibilities through work done by the college. So let's go back to midwifery. As the regulator, the college and council are responsible for creating a program to meet the requirements of the legislation in a way that addresses risk. We're all interested in making sure that our quality assurance programs strike the right balance between professional responsibility, regulation, and public safety. What we do isn't just about responding to legislation. It's about applying guiding principles around regulation to a specific task set out by the laws that govern midwifery. And it's also about growing and learning as professionals. So we've talked about the college's responsibilities, and it's important to note that we're following an approach to regulation that aims to make things better. A lot of that is guided by you. The current format of the professional development portfolio is self-directed, it's flexible, and it allows for self-identification of learning needs and professional development through completing learning activities. In short, you get to decide what matters to you, you get to drive your own learning, and you get to have a more flexible time frame to meet quality assurance objectives. The quality assurance program plays an essential role in addressing risk by supporting professionalism amongst midwives. We are invested in modernizing the regulatory environment in which midwives operate and enabling the evolution of midwifery in the public interest. Self-reflection and self-directed learning are aspects of professionalism that are already enshrined in midwifery practice. We are confident that the expectations of the professional development portfolio and the QAP program are reasonable, as midwives are already doing a lot of these activities to hone and expand their knowledge and skills. So if you take a look at this slide, you can see the two quality assurance programs compared side by side, then versus now. The new quality assurance program reflects a more adaptable, individualized, and responsive path to quality assurance. It was thoughtfully developed with the Quality Assurance Committee, who, as I mentioned, are a mix of professional and public members, as well as through focus groups and through research on regulation best practice across a number of disciplines. When we modernized the regulation, we made the program mirror what was required in the Regulated Health Professions Act in order to be able to adapt the program to fit evolving needs. We made it a more reasonable and more simplified program based on feedback from midwives, the public, and information from across other professions. One key example of this change that you're going to notice is the change in quality of care evaluations. While they used to be really prescriptive and really standardized, they were determined to not be as effective in their goal, which was identifying quality of care issues, which then would trigger practices to engage in quality improvement at a practice level. And that just wasn't really happening. It wasn't a useful tool anymore. So we've actually changed that requirement. You're going to see that continuously monitoring and making efforts to improve the quality of your practice using reflection and client and peer feedback now lives in the professional standards for midwives, among other QA initiatives, but it's not part of the quality assurance program. This allows midwifery practices and midwives to determine the best method for themselves to gather information and act on it, and have it be a part of an ongoing quality improvement measure as opposed to part of the quality assurance program. So now I'm going to hand the mic over to Abby, who's going to get into the nitty-gritty about the quality assurance program and the professional development portfolio. Take it away, Abby.
Thanks, Megan. So in the current program, the following components include the self-assessment, learning plan, case reviews, and declaration of completion. So I already see a few questions trickling in regarding where to start and a little bit more detail about each of the components of the program. So I'm hoping I'm able to answer some of your questions in the next couple of minutes. Next slide. So the self-assessment component is designed to assist you to identify your learning needs and can serve as the foundation for creating your learning plan. Unlike other components of the portfolio, the self-assessment is designed for the midwife only and will not be accessible to or reviewed by the college. You are welcome to use the Canadian Midwifery Regulators Council self-assessment tool or any other to meet the self-assessment requirement in the portfolio. A link to the self-assessment tool is provided to you in the chat, and it's also available on our website. The CMRC self-assessment tool asks you to reflect on 42 self-assessment items using the rating scale provided. It also provides space right beside each of the items to take notes so you can record your recent professional experiences that pertains to the criteria, or writing ideas for resources, skills, and experiences needed to enhance the specific competency. So then you can use those notes to develop a learning plan to guide your professional development. Again, I just want to reiterate that the college will not be accessing or reviewing this part of the portfolio as it is meant to be a private reflective practice. We're just providing a recommended tool here in the chat for you to use. Next slide. So when you have an idea of what your learning needs may be, this can then prompt you to create a learning plan. There's an easy to use PDF template on the CMO website that you can fill in to meet this component of the portfolio. The link is also going to be provided to you in the chat in order for you to access that learning template. So both general and inactive registrants are required to have the learning plan completed. So this approach ensures that everyone has a chance to engage in continuous learning and skill enhancement. It is expected that a minimum of one learning goal will be met per year. So you can set one learning goal per year means you can select a shorter term goal to be met for the first year and more longer term goals to be met in years 2 and 3 of your reporting cycle. And it is recommended for the goals to be developed using the SMART goals method. Next slide. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time limited. This framework ensures that your goals are well defined and have a clear path to success. The S in SMART represents specificity. So when crafting your learning goals, be precise about what you want to accomplish. Instead of a vague goal like improving leadership skills, consider something specific like attending a leadership workshop to enhance communication and decision-making skills. The M emphasizes measurability. A goal should be quantifiable so that progress can be tracked. So a question you can ask yourself is, how will I know when I've learned this skill or acquired this knowledge? Moving on to A for attainability. While it's great to set ambitious goals, they should also be realistic. Assess whether the goal is within your reach with the time and resources you have available to you. The R underscores relevance. Your learning goal should align with your overall career objectives and the needs of your role. Ensure that your goal is directly connected to your professional development and contributes to your broader career aspirations. Lastly, the T refers to time limited. Every goal should have a time frame for completion. This helps in setting a sense of urgency and accountability. For example, if your goal is to complete a certification of some sort, set a specific deadline for achieving it. Next slide. So in the learning plan, you'll be asked to demonstrate how you'll meet your learning goals, dates for expected completion, and the ways in which these goals will be achieved. There should be at least one learning activity for each goal, and some goals will have more than one activity and different types of activities involved. You are encouraged to choose goals that include technical skills and non-technical skills. And on this slide here, there's a list of potential skills that you could choose from and the learning activity that you may plan to complete to achieve the established learning goal. So I know many of you are in the inactive class, so you might be inclined to choose more non-technical skills to work on compared to someone in the general class who may be more inclined to choose more technical skills. And that's completely okay. Since it is a self-directed process, you can use this list to choose any 3 skills you would like to work on and choose a learning activity to help achieve that learning goal. This is a reminder that we are sharing the recording after the webinar, but you are welcome to take a snapshot of this list to help you develop a learning goal if you haven't established one already. So for example, if you had a learning goal on developing better stress management techniques in the workplace, you may choose to take a virtual seminar and listen to a podcast to help develop that skill. You do have the flexibility to go back and make adjustments to your goals and substitute a learning activity if needed. Each of you have a unique professional journey, and the learning plan is a tool that allows you to tailor your goals based on your aspirations and current needs. Next slide. So the next component of the portfolio is case reviews. So as you can see on the table here, the total number of case reviews you are expected to complete by the end of the 3-year reporting cycle will depend on the number of months you are registered in the general, supervised practice, or transitional class. So if you have been in the practicing class for a full 3 years, you are expected to have 12 case reviews completed by the reporting deadline. This means that midwives registered in the active practicing class for less than 3 years get to report on fewer case reviews. So I would highly recommend reviewing the table on this slide to calculate how many case reviews you are expected to complete. This can also be found on the portfolio section on our website. So a question we had received from a registrant is, do regularly attended peer reviews at practice meetings count? And absolutely they do. Those can count towards your case review, but just remember that there has to be 2 midwifery practice groups present in order for it to count as a case review. Also, important to note that the information discussed during case reviews should be treated as confidential, and midwives will not be asked to disclose this information to the college. The case review form on our website indicates the details that we ask you to provide to us. We have also included a snapshot here of what the case form looks like, and the link to the case review form can also be found in the chat below. Next slide. So I just want to take the next couple of minutes to go over an example scenario to have a better to get a better understanding of what the case review process looks like. So Rabia is in year 3 of the PDP cycle in 2023. So they are concerned about their case review numbers because they were only in the general class for 20 months out of the 36, and so will not be able to complete all 12 case reviews during the 3-year period. However, since they are only in the general class for 20 months out of the 36, they are only required to participate in 4 case reviews during the 3-year cycle period. The number of case reviews you are expected to complete will all be dependent on the number of months you were in an active practicing class. So you can use this table here provided on the slide to help you calculate that. Next slide. The year you are required to report is based on the year that you've been registered with the college. So if you have been registered with the college on or before October 1st, 2021, your reporting year is this year, and the deadline to report is October 1st, 2024. If you have been registered with the college between October 2nd, 2021 to October 1st, 2022, your reporting deadline is the following year on October 1st, 2025. During your reporting year, you're going to be asked to submit a declaration of completion by logging into the registrant portal. The quality assurance section of the registrant portal will be available to you during the renewal period, so that's starting August 1st. After your initial reporting deadline has passed, the 3-year period will then start over, and you'll be required to submit 3 years after. So for those who are submitting this year, your second reporting deadline will be October 1st, 2027. Your reporting cycle does not change if you change classes. This means that your reporting cycle will always be every 3 years and does not go on hold if you register as inactive. Next slide. So after you have submitted your declaration of completion, 20% of reporting midwives will be selected by the college to have their professional development portfolio reviewed for completion. You'll be asked to submit your learning plan and any supporting documentation, which can include certificates, diplomas, email confirmations, conference proceedings, and other forms of documentation that demonstrate your participation in learning activities, of course, only when such evidence exists. You will also be asked to submit your case review form, but we will not ask you for your self-assessment questionnaire. Those who are unable to meet their professional development portfolio requirements due to exceptional circumstances such as illness, parental leave, or disability leave can be granted an exemption from any or all of the program requirements under Section 4 of the Quality Assurance Regulation. So a full exemption means that the midwife has no reporting obligations for the entire 3-year reporting cycle. A partial exemption means that the midwife will complete some, but not all of the portfolio requirements of the 3-year reporting cycle. And the deadline to submit an exemption is 15 business days before the reporting deadline. But we do ask that you submit your request well in advance of the deadline to allow sufficient time to thoroughly review your request and communicate the status back to you in a timely manner. The exemption form can be found on our website, and the link to the form is also included in the chat box. Midwives who do not submit a declaration of completion or who are selected for review and do not submit a complete portfolio will receive a notice of non-compliance and must pay an administrative fee. Midwives marked non-compliant may make a written submission regarding their non-compliance to the Quality Assurance Committee within 30 days of receiving the notice. And then the submissions will then be reviewed by the panel of the QAC. So I'll be taking the next couple of minutes to review 2 additional cases to help you have a better understanding of the professional development portfolio. So Pat had noticed that UBC is offering a free trans-affirming healthcare course in year 3 of the PDP reporting cycle. Her learning plan did not include goals related to this topic. Can she change her learning plan and goals mid-cycle? Most definitely, Pat can change her goals. Pat has the flexibility to update her learning plan and goals mid-cycle. The primary purpose of the learning plan is to support continuous professional development, and it's entirely acceptable to adjust it as new opportunities or learning priorities arise. So in this case, if Pat identifies the UBC's trans-affirming healthcare course as a valuable opportunity, she is encouraged to update her learning plan accordingly to include goals related to that topic. So case number 3, Bahar developed a serious MSK injury after a challenging shoulder dystocia. They have been on long-term disability since January of 2022 and not currently working as a registered midwife. Can Bahar request an exemption from the PDP? Bahar can absolutely request an exemption from the professional development from the professional development portfolio due to their injury. So when registrants are unable to actively participate in the program due to significant life events or health issues, they may be granted an exemption. Bahar is encouraged to apply for an exemption as soon as possible to provide the Quality Assurance Committee sufficient time to review their request. Now we'll be moving on to case number 4.
I'm going to unmute myself. Critical detail. So I'm going to take case number 4, and this is about Angie. Angie just realized that she is short on case reviews and is worried that she won't be able to complete the required number now that she has left her practice and is inactive. Where can she seek out opportunities for case reviews as an inactive registrant? So this question was ripped straight from some of the questions that were sent prior to the webinar. So I think this one might be front of mind for some people. Because the expectations for case reviews have changed, it's actually easier to meet the requirements of case reviews. Couple of things to remember. If a registrant is registered inactive for greater than 11 months of the 3-year cycle, there is no expectation for case reviews. So really important to go back to that table that Abby was showing us previously, just to make sure that an inactive registrant is truly responsible for providing evidence of attending case reviews. If you are an inactive registrant or you have been inactive for less than 11 months, there's some obligation and some responsibility on your part to have either completed case reviews leading up to the time that you were inactive, get case reviews done now that you're general if you were inactive for a shorter period of time. And I know that that's causing people some stress. So couple of things to note. Number one, you can still attend case reviews as an inactive registrant. That's perfectly fine. If you have a relationship with a prior clinic that you worked at, or a midwifery practice group, or an expanded midwifery care model that you might have been an employee in, you are absolutely within your rights to reach out to them and ask if you can join in for case reviews. That's perfectly fine. Second thing to remember is the expectations of number of different practices and the number of participants is a little bit different now. Really, only 2 midwives need to participate in a case review. Those 2 midwives, as long as they were at different practices when a case review, when a case came to light, then that is perfectly appropriate. As long as the 2 midwives who are reviewing the case and coming up with some take-home learnings from that case are not working at the same practice, then that absolutely meets the expectation. The other thing to remember is you can attend case reviews as part of quality of care reviews at hospitals. So if you have privileges at a hospital, even if you're currently inactive, that's another source where you could attend a quality of care review. The expectation of the case reviews as they stand now is just that if you are unable to attend with another midwifery group and you instead attend as part of an interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary group, it's just important that you and the other individuals at that meeting establish an agreement about what the case review is all about. So, for example, if you are able to connect with a physician colleague, you two decide to meet, it's important for you to specify that I am going to go through this case. Either the person who you're meeting with is presenting a case or you're bringing a case for the purposes of a case review. That just clears the water a little bit in terms of your obligations for confidentiality and other constraints under PHIPAA. It's just very important that you're all on the same page. The last place that you could go looking for a case review is in a broader audience model of case review. So for example, the maternal and perinatal death review committee or the coroner's report, it is perfectly appropriate for you to attend a rounds that's put on by that group, or you can attend a maternal fetal medicine rounds or a grand rounds if it's related to maternal or newborn cases. That is all perfectly fine. Just of note, because this has been the source of some questions leading up to today, and in our earlier webinar, this did come up as well. People are focusing on the number of attendees at the case reviews. Some people have been using older forms. Some people are now using new forms, and they're struggling to count the number of people who are attending a case review. If you are running into something that's a little sticky and you don't really know whether or not you're meeting the expectation, please just connect with me or Abby at the QAP email address, which I'm going to be sharing later on in the presentation. For some people, it's going to be really easy just to say, yep, there were two of us. We were from two different practices, check mark. But if you are attending something that's a little bit more broad audience, or if for whatever reason you're attending over the phone, or it's a web-based case review, and you don't know how many people are actually there, just connect with us on a one-on-one basis and we can give you some guidance.